Fair skies in the Metroplex. This is Don Norman, First News 57. Now again, Tim Jernigan.
Thank you, Don. Still hot outside. Can't see if there are any clouds or not because our little TV monitor that points out at the sky, just all we can see on it is the mobile horse.
Right.
But I guess it has to be clear as far as between here and the mobile horse is concerned. 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities. We're opening up the lines. If there's any backlash remaining from the two previous portions of the program, the first part of which dealt with cloning. We talked with Jeremy Rifkin, who's written a book on the subject called Who Should Play God? And the second portion of the program, we talked with Bob Slosser, who wrote Child of Satan, Child of God, talked about religious conversions. And at least a couple of people questioned the verity of such things. Okay? The number is 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. Let's go to the phones. We've got people standing by. Good evening.
Hello, this is Tim.
Yes.
Tim?
Yes, that's me.
Okay. I agree with the fellow who called in and said that he didn't believe that people should express themselves personally about their religion. I think religion is a very highly personal thing. And if people believe in Christianity and Jesus, I think they should go and tell no man and set a good example. For what is more than these cometh from evil.
Go and tell no man. Well, okay, that's a scripture, I assume, eh?
Yes, it is.
Well, isn't
Jesus was made to say that, but those words were put in his mouth, but it's pretty good philosophy nevertheless.
Yeah, well, can't you point to other scriptures that say, be fishers of men, go out and spread the gospel?
Well, they're doing that, but they're not going around telling they're doing instead of talking.
Well, it occurs to me that...
doing is a thing, not talking about it.
Well, it occurs to me that the character Jesus did a lot of talking as well as doing. But I thank you for your call.
Yeah.
I appreciate your opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. 742-5700 is the number to call and express yours on. 263-4905, the Fort Worth Metro line. Hello.
Hello. I'd like to ask a question on cloning.
Okay.
Can a clone be produced without the aid of a woman?
Right now, well, there's no proof that a clone can be produced, period, okay? Theoretically, a clone can be produced without a mother in a test tube. Right now, according to the person who claims that a clone does exist, that particular one required the services of a host mother, okay? She didn't have anything to do with the embryo itself, but she was merely giving it a place to stay for 9 months.
Well, now that has been happening among cattle for a good many years.
Oh, well, but it still requires two cattle. It requires sperm and eggs, okay? This has nothing to do with either sperm or... it has to do with an egg, but a neutral egg with no genetic information in it, the nucleus removed, okay? So there's no sperm involved, and that's what's different about cloning.
And it was born of a woman. It was born of a woman?
According to David Rorvik, who wrote this book in his image, yes. But that, has not been authenticated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your call. I'm glad I was able to provide at least a little bit of an answer. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. 742-5700 in Dallas is the number. 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, you're on the air.
I'm calling to comment about the comments that the lady was making about the Southerners being the only ones who were being saved.
Yeah, turn your radio down, okay?
I've turned it down.
Okay. Well, I can still hear it a little bit, but go ahead.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't confuse you.
Well, okay. Anyway, she said that only Southerners were being saved. That's not true. People in California and everywhere are being saved. I mean, I'm just a teenager and I was saved 7 weeks ago.
I think what she said is that only in the South could you get away with talking about it. In the East, you'd be laughed off the radio. I think, to paraphrase.
No, it wouldn't be last off the radio. My dad was in the East.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to say?
Well, she also commented about it being just in, because she was commenting about it being in the South, I thought that it wasn't just in the South because Jesus said to go ye therefore into the world and preach the gospel.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. You quoted it better than I could, I think.
Okay.
I appreciate your call. Bye. I still remember some things from Sunday school. 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities. Let's go to one of those lines. I do.
Say, I heard this guy talking about Susan Atkins.
Yes.
What about the Apostle Paul? He was a persecutor of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saved.
Yep.
See?
Fact. I mean, it's not a fact, but it says so in the Bible.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, anything is possible, isn't it?
Yeah, I think,
If nobody could be saved, it'd be all lost, wouldn't it?
Could be.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
Goodbye. I went to a store that gave green stamps the other day for the first time. Speaking of redemption and such. 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities, 742-5700 in Dallas. It had been a long time since I'd seen green stamps. They still do dispense them, though, I reckon. We're going to take a commercial break and get back to a lot of phone calls, I hope, after that.
Okay, where is your old man then?
Working in Alaska, making lots of money.
Then how come he don't send any home?
He sends us lots and lots.
Sure. My dad says you don't even hear from him.
Children can be cruel, but the struggle for survival can take an even greater toll. If you know someone who needs support from a deserting parent, tell the family about the Child Support Enforcement Program. Your welfare office has details.
And when my dad gets home, he'll show you and your old man.
Hello, you run the radio. You and us together. We're Dallas Fort Worth people.
And the Ed Bush Talk Show on Tuesday will look into your future with psychic Shawn Roberts. She's one of those people who's always quoted in the National Enquirer what's going to happen in the future. And also a lady on keeping you from being ripped off by tours. Make sure you come back as well as get there. That's Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Here at 57 WFAA.
The numbers, I feel like I say them too often. 742-5700, it's like breathing. 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities. Maybe that's why nobody hears them sometimes, is because I say them so reflexively. The number in Dallas is 742-5700. In Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities, it's 263-4905. Right now, we have what you call an open line. In other words, you're free to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And we've given you a couple of ideas, I think, with a couple of real interesting segments of programming. One on cloning, the other on religious conversions. Yes, even of such folks as Susan Atkins, former member of the Manson family. Hello.
Hello. I'd like to talk about income tax.
Okay, that's something.
Okay. You might know something about this. Like right now, the more money that you take, the higher percentage, like the IRS will take away. Like say, most people, like they might take about 20%, but then once you, get to the point where you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, like Muhammad Ali or something, they take 60% of it.
The philosophy being that, they charge the people who can better afford it.
Yeah. Okay, but like inflation, it goes up 7% a year. So like right now, there, are like a handful of people who are making that much money, but 10 years from now, when like the dollar today is only worth half as much, it seems like there should be twice as many people making big sums of money like that. So unless the IRS like changes the amount that they take, like 10 or 50 years from now, it seems like everybody will be paying 60% of their income or something.
Well, not if the tax revolution continues like it's going now.
Are you talking about that Proposition 13?
Yeah, in California, and everybody, just wanting more of a say-so. And there were two people locally who contested their tax returns, and they've been in court. I think one of them was convicted. I don't know what he got yet, or if he has been sentenced. But he pled the Fifth Amendment on his tax return.
Mm-hmm.
And in other words, I'm not going to tell you how much I made. and you're not going to get any of it. So it's happening all over.
You know, like you're talking about out in California, I saw on the CBS News tonight that already they've started laying off teachers and closing down free health clinics and things like that.
Yeah. Have they done away with any fat, I wonder?
Any fat?
Yeah, supposedly there's a lot of fat in government spending.
Oh, yeah, like they had a $5 billion surplus or something like that. But
yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is they're just trying to scare the people so that they can raise their taxes again.
Now, that's what I'm wondering. See, that'd be an awful petty thing to do. Surely, though, they wouldn't cut vital services just out of an I-told-you-so kind of a motivation. You know, but that's what it sounds like you're saying they might be doing.
Yeah.
We said from the outset that you couldn't get away with voting out 60% of the property tax, and there were going to be all kinds of problems, and now we're out to prove it. So.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you for your call.
Okay.
Bye. Keep listening. 742-5700 in Dallas is the number, 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities, and supposedly that's all I have to say to get all these lights to start blinking. We have a few blinking currently, and let's punch one of them. Hi.
Hello, how are you tonight?
Okay.
Yeah, I was listening to all odds and ends on your cloning.
Yes.
And I have a relative in my family, and he lost one of his limbs. And I, for one, would be sort of glad to see cloning come about, because I really think it'd be something to see that young man with another limb again that was his own. He wouldn't have to take it off at night or whatever.
Yeah, well, I've never heard of cloning talked about as a way to replace limbs. Now, he could make another one of himself, technically a carbon copy with all limbs intact, but he would not share consciousness. Although, there are people who, out of a mystical point of view, say that there might be some kind of shared consciousness.
Well, I wouldn't know about the spiritual aspect of it, but from what I can understand, from what I've read on certain things along the line, being a science fiction buff, if you will, well, I just sort of think that they could take a individual cell, say from that person's leg or arm or whatever he or she might be missing, and just regenerate from the DNA or RNA nuclei in that particular cell, and generate the leg or arm that's missing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that I don't know if that'd be cloning or not, but it seems that if one's possible, the other ought to be, I guess. What do you think of cloning in general? Are you for it or against it?
Oh, well, I really feel for it, because I think a lot of this hubbub about being, scared that, people are going to build armies and take over the world, or they're going to have 50 million Hitlers and stuff like that is a little on the deep end, so to speak, simply because, being in the service right now, they're having problems with money right and left, and I feel that it would just be financially or economically impossible to build an army along those lines.
Oh, I think it could conceivably be a lot cheaper. You start mass producing these clones. You program them not to demand too much in the way of salary. You could fix that before they were ever born. And, instant army.
Well, you still have to house them and at least reasonably feed them. It might not have to taste very good, but I'm doing that right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for your comment.
All right, thank you. One other question.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about, have you read anything from Dr. Gerald O'Neill on the colonization of space, particularly within the asteroid belt in this area and right around the Earth here?
Dr. who?
Gerald O'Neill.
No, I've not read about it. What do you think about it? Who was it, Paul Ehrlich, that said even if we started colonizing the moon right now, by the time it wouldn't do that much to relieve the pressure of population on Earth?
Okay, he wrote a book. It's called The Last Frontier, and I don't really want to plug it, but I guess it's sounding like that. But it states, and he's not for colonization of planets, say like the moon or Mars or Venus or whatever, but he claims, and by reading his book I was really fascinated by this, that through existing technology we can in fact build space stations, quote, quote, that will colonize, let's say up towards 10,000 people at a stump, and through industry and everything else, and the use of solar energy, this thing will be in the black, I believe, within 20 to 30 years after it's put out in space.
Oh, wow. So they could make a few of them and relieve a lot of pressure. Dr. Gerald O'Neill, it's a nonfiction book that he's written?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Called The Last Frontier.
The Last Frontier. The Last Frontier or The High Frontier? I'm not sure which. It escapes my mind right at the moment. My books are all packed up because I just moved in a new house.
Oh. Okay, well, maybe we'll see about getting him on a show. I mean, it's a current book?
Yes, it is. It just came out in paperback. I believe it's, well, I can't even think of the company that puts it out. I'll say Dull right off the top of my head, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll see about giving him a call and see what he says to the idea of talking about it on the air. Thank you for your call.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Okay, you too. Keep listening. 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. One thing on the subject of cloning before we leave it, if we leave it, we don't have to. This article in the newspaper based on some testimony at the congressional hearings on cloning is headlined, Successful Human Clone Impossible. It quotes Dr. Beatrice Mintz, senior member of the Institute for Cancer Research, responding to this book David Rorvik wrote. He's the one that claims a clone does exist. She called it a dull work of fiction. Dr. Mintz says prospects of human cloning because of biological barriers is, quote, absolutely nil, unquote. And then they refer to another testifier at this hearing, Dr. Robert G. McKennell, University of Minnesota genetics and cell biology professor. He said that cloning has been done with young tadpoles, but none has survived into adulthood. Somebody else stressed that experimental work on tadpoles and mice led to the conclusion that cloned human embryos would also die. So not everybody says that it's all that feasible, even though some claim there already are clones amongst us, at least one. 9 minutes until 10 o'clock, 742-5700 in Dallas, the number 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. I'm Tim Jernigan, and we'll be back with more conversation in a minute.
Dodge pickup trucks like blue jeans, sure been round a lot. Lot of folks for a lot of years been glad for all they've got. Times have changed and styles have changed. They did not stand still. They caught the spirit of today, and they always will. Yes, they will.
It used to be that Dodge pickups were simply sturdy workhorses, but times have changed. Nowadays, they go shopping, take trips, and just generally double as the family car. But what the heck? Nowadays, you can order Dodge pickups with bucket seats, stereo, tilt steering column, zine paint jobs, all sorts of goodies. For the past 10 years, that's helped make Dodge the fastest-growing truck company in America.
Dependable and versatile, beautiful machine. Dodge is into pickup like America's into jeans.
7 minutes until 10 o'clock. I'm Tim Jernigan. Saw my first samurai movie last night. Have you ever seen a samurai movie? I never had before. I mean, it's like a Western, only they make them in Japan. And supposedly the Magnificent Seven was based on The Seven Samurai, which was like a famous classic samurai movie. Somebody commented that Clint Eastwood's Westerns were more like samurai movies than they were like traditional Roy Rogers, Gene Autry Westerns. The main thing it did for me was to inform the samurai laundryman and such things as that on Saturday night. I never knew, what the reference for that kind of thing was. We're talking about whatever you want to talk about, and let's go back to the phone lines. What do you say? Hello.
Hello. I'd like to make a comment or two on the book that was written about Susan Atkinson.
Susan Atkins.
I'm sorry?
Susan Atkins.
Sorry, Susan Atkins.
That's okay.
Okay. There's something that hasn't been mentioned, although I was inclined to agree with the woman from the East that called, and she said it would probably be left off the air. It probably would, but that didn't make it right or wrong. There's one thing, though, that is being given a lot of attention as perhaps a factor of some importance in whether or not she's paroled. And something occurred to me, which I hope occurs to the people in charge, and that is that
the government has no say in whether we're religious or not. Conversely, whether we're religious or not should have no say in how the government treats us as far as an act we commit as citizens of these United States. That's fine that she became converted to whatever she became converted. However, insofar as it affects her life or if her behavior has dramatically changed, I think this could be taken into account. But how else could it be in a prison? I mean, she's obviously a young woman.
Oh, it could very easily be changed for the worse. I don't know how much worse than...
Well, how much worse can you get in a prison? I mean, you don't become worse because you're threatened to not be worse, for one thing, by all around you.
Oh, a lot of people have become hardened criminals after being sent to prison for, petty things, relatively petty things.
She was committed for a crime of very strong passion, the passion being a commitment to a man who had a very strong hold over her, very much apparently like the Christian, quote, saving has done.
Oh, true, yeah.
I've met a lot of these types, and it's almost like you could wave your hand in front of their faces, they're sort of smiling, and if you said,
Yeah, and I would think that there have been all kinds...
alarming to me that people will not... I had a man tell me, let me briefly, and I won't keep because I know it's a talk show, tell me, and it was a businessman, and it was, supposedly intelligent man, tell me that he had witnessed somebody's leg become longer, and then the man thought it became too long, a crippled woman, and he pushed it back. Now,
Hallelujah.
I said, that's very interesting. I said, I didn't deny it. I hadn't seen it or not seen it. And he said, well... And I said, well, doesn't that, he said, doesn't it make you feel differently? And I said, well, it certainly must have been an interesting thing for you to see and an astonishing thing, trying to not be negative, which I didn't feel. I don't feel threatened or impressed by it at all. I didn't see it.
You ought to be a talk show host, it sounds like to me.
I said,
from your tact.
I said, I would like very much to speak with her doctors before and after, just get, well, he said, you're the type of person that doesn't believe anything. You always finds fault with everything. Well, I knew the whole thing was lost then, and I went on to talking about dogs or something. But what I'm saying is that the influence of her conversion to a religion, whatever it is, should play no part whatsoever in her parole.
Yeah, and I would have gotten into that kind of thing with Bob Swalter if I thought I could have gotten anywhere. See, for him, it was not a religion; it was the religion.
The religion. Well, yeah. I know. Well, when I was first listening to you, and it was very interesting, and your comments to him were good. They were drawing him out and all that, and I enjoyed that. Was that I had a reverse conversion about 12 years ago to atheism, and I feel so comfortable, and I feel so calm and so good inside myself that if somebody gets that good of a feeling from being a Christian, I say, gee, that's terrific. If it makes you feel comfortable, I would not say anything against it. But I feel so good within myself. I kind of feel that for the most part, what I cause myself. Yeah. If I cause anything, which is nothing very dramatic in my kind of middle age.
Yeah, well, I wished you'd have called up, and I wished I had something like that to draw upon. I wish I could have thought of a case of some
reverse type of thing.
Well, no, some religious fanatic who committed some horrendous crime. There have been plenty of them, I'm sure, who've been who say God told me to do it.
Yes. This is the thing that's rather frightening, and in my exposure, I am from the Northeast, but I've been here for 15 years, so I'm somewhat exposed and raised my youngster here. She's gone off to college now. Okay, in my exposure down here to this very strong and very public type of Christianity, and I say public with meaning because I think many times when the people are public, I feel just a little bit, well, in the beginning I was trying to be Miss Perfect Housewife and even Miss X. When I was divorced, I was in the church and the whole thing until I began to get onto my own feet and trust my own ability to make a judgment. Then that's when I turned to the other. But the reason I didn't call was because the man was so tunnel-visioned, if I can use that word, that no matter what you say, it turns it around. The only thing I'd be afraid of in cloning is that they'd clone 3 million Christians. I'm sorry, Christians out there. Please,
well, it's just that he has the answer, and for him, and so there's no question.
And this country is a country that is separated, church and state. I really so firmly believe that, and I'm so grateful for anybody that tries to bring that out to the public awareness. The churches pay no taxes. I mean, it's incredible. We are supporting the churches in effect. The banks grant them lower rates on their interest. Therefore, the little old lady who retires pays more interest. I've seen this through my own business exposure. And, you know, there are just so many things that are being said by, quote, the other side from the Christians. I would not for one moment suggest that Christians not be Christians, or that they not have churches, or that they not send their kids to private schools. Do it. Do it. You might want to go out and play golf all day, which I don't like either, but I don't want to support your golf.
You know, we're running up on news time.
All right, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for calling. There is one interesting thing in the news talking about the growth in religion, not in mainstream Protestantism, but in evangelical religion, which is what she was talking about, the public Christians. And on the other hand, the other place where there's been growth in religion has been in Catholicism, which is kind of interesting. Two contradictions. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we'd like to comment on that after news. We have to break now. We'll be back after that.
News, sports, and talk radio for the Metroplex. This is WFAA Dallas-Fort Worth.
CBS News, the dollar hits a new post-war low in Japan, while the Japanese continue their recovery from today's sharp earthquake. Good evening, I'm Mitchell Krause reporting on the CBS Radio Network. As trading began Tuesday morning in Tokyo, the dollar could buy only a little over 216 yen, down considerably from yesterday's 219 yen and almost 2 yen lower than the previous record low. Reports of new U.S. inflation were blamed for the new slide. Meanwhile, Japan is still feeling the effects of the sharp earthquake which struck the northern part of Honshu Island late Monday. 21 people died in the quake, 340 were injured. The northeast coast was hardest hit. In Miyagi, 2 people were killed by falling telephone poles, and 2 others died in Sendai when they were crushed by debris inside a house under construction. The northeastern Greek city of Salonika was also shaken by an earth tremor. Thousands of people rushed out into the streets in panic, but there were no reports of injuries or property damage. A third quake was also reported today off the northwest coast of Canada's Vancouver Island. It registered 5 on the Richter scale, considerably lower than the 7.5 recorded in Japan today. More CBS News in a moment.
Hello, people, every day.
Who's on the cover of People magazine this week? Cheryl Teagues, the $2,000 a day woman, the world's top model. What does she say made her successful where more beautiful models fail? How does she protect her happy marriage? People tells you. Dr. Lee Salk tells other divorced parents how to help their children cope. Is it always bad for the kids? Will the lobbyist called Mr. Marijuana get grass legalized by 1981? People tells you.
Take a look at the people in People this week.
Lucy's lover boy son Desi Arnaz Jr. has reformed, but what were all those years with the starlets like? Can Bob Strauss, Jimmy Carter's inflation fighter, charm labor and business into holding prices down? People tells you. What are People's 6 picks for the best in summer reading? Why is Hollywood's famous fish doctor insured for $1 million? Why is Britt Eklund following Foghat? Get the answers in People this week, the one with Cheryl Teagues on the cover.
From cover to cover, see what they're doing. Take a look at the people in People this week.
The House of Representatives, on the first day of live radio broadcasting of its proceedings, voted unanimously to condemn human rights violations in Idi Amin's Uganda. The non-binding resolution was aimed at discouraging trade with Uganda, particularly by U.S. coffee companies. But the resolution's co-sponsor, Democrat Don Bonker of Washington State, also criticized the Carter administration.
It's puzzling to the sponsors of the resolution because no administration in recent times has spoken out more consistently about human rights violations. And now that we're faced with the perpetrator of the most gross examples of human rights violations, the administration apparently is paralyzed in doing anything about it. And they couldn't even support a watered-down resolution as was passed in the House today.
The resolution calls on the president to support international efforts to investigate and respond to conditions in Uganda. Troops from the African states of Togo and the Ivory Coast have now joined units from Morocco, Senegal, the Central African Republic, and Gabon in protecting Zaire from rebel attacks. The latest to arrive, 105 medics from the Ivory Coast, flown to Lubumbashi today aboard 2 U.S. Air Force C-141 jet transports. When the force finally is constituted in Shaba province, it's expected to number about 2,000 men. The group is from basically pro-Western African states and is assigned the protection of the northern province. Zaire's main hope in meeting its foreign debt of close to $3 billion. In the Middle East, Israeli troops are about to pull out of southern Lebanon, but at this hour, it's unclear whether they'll be replaced by a multi-nation UN interim force or by right-wing Christian Lebanese who live in the southern villages. The Israeli withdrawal is due to begin early Tuesday, Israel time. Now this message.
Get the long-lasting collar that kills both ticks and fleas. Put the plus on your pet, the Hearts 2-in-1 Plus.
Forget about fleas and ticks all season long. Get the long-lasting Hearts 2-in-1 Plus collar. If it gets wet, the collar won't lose its effectiveness, even against ticks that carry dangerous Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Protect your dog, cat, and family.
Put the plus on your pet, the Hearts 2-in-1 Plus.
I'm Stephanie Shelton, CBS News. Every day, Monday through Saturday, on What's Happening, I bring you reports and interviews on affairs of concern to the whole family. Items of consumer interest, women's broadening role in the business and political worlds, and in sports, educational matters, and those pertaining to health. We discuss all this and more, a wide variety of topics to keep you well informed. That's What's Happening, every day, Monday through Saturday, on the CBS Radio Network.
The Federal Communications Commission says it does have evidence the citizens' band radio broadcast can affect the operation of some heart pacemakers. The FCC made the statement following investigations of a complaint from pacemaker user Helen Hinderer of Marysville, Ohio, who said the CB messages were speeding up her heart-regulating device and making her dizzy.
What it does is when the pacer fires, an extra beat is formed in there. In other words, I get 2 heartbeats instead of 1. And this, if it's kept up for any time, then is when I get pain in the heart saban and I have to go into oxygen.
The FCC did not say what action is planned to prevent the problem. Up to 300,000 Americans have pacemakers. I'm Mitchell Krause, CBS News.
The weather forecast for the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex reads like this. Low temperature in the upper 60s. Tonight, clearing and cooler. Mostly fair Tuesday through Wednesday. A little cooler tomorrow. Then warmer again on Wednesday. The high temperature tomorrow in the lower 90s. The low Tuesday night in the upper 60s. The high Wednesday in the mid-90s. Winds light and northeasterly. Wonder how hot it got today. I think I heard a 97-degree reading. Yes, I did. This afternoon, Joe Halstead told me it was 97 degrees at the airport and downtown and in Fort Worth. Right now, it's just 86 degrees, and the skies are dark for the most part. 742-5700 in Dallas, the number 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the mid-cities. We have an open line, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Hello.
Still with us?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Yes, you're on the air.
Tim.
Yes. Yes.
I heard the young man mention the fact about the colonization of space.
Mm-hmm.
And, you really are, since our proximity to NASA and to many of their public programs down there, you really ought to get in contact with someone in their public affairs office down there.
You think that'd be interesting?
Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center, and have him tell you just how primitive our present space shuttle is with the one that will be following on about the turn of the century, which will be about generation number 4 in space shuttles.
You mean they've got plans that far ahead?
Oh yes, their plans extend into the middle of the first century of the next so-called millennia or next 1,000 years, into about the year 2050.
Wow.
There is a framework plan that can, of course, be altered.
Sure.
But let's consider one basic philosophical thing. Mankind has now achieved enough knowledge of the operation of stars, in which our sun is one, and an astronomer will tell you it's a type K yellow star, considered a slow variable or whatever. And we know in the back of our mind at some great period of time down the way, the sun is going to go through a life and death cycle, as we have seen other stars and observed them in various points throughout
our galaxy and other galaxies. So eventually this solar system will be not habitable, fit for human habitation because of the sun going nova.
Yeah, but how many years down the line is that? I mean, how many?
Well,
thousands, millions?
Again, who knows what the timetable is?
Yeah.
They haven't been able to pin it down that good yet. So the real salvation, if mankind as a species wants to perpetuate itself and its drive to seek or climb a mountain, what keeps a mountain climber going? A lot of people think they're crazy, but whatever, why do people climb Mount Everest?
Yeah.
It's not a very hospitable place.
Mm-mm.
But they are going to drive out into first this solar system, and then they're going to start their drive toward nearby solar systems. And all you need to do, if you want to do it a mathematical way, is take the rate of scientific progress, start with the year 1000, and take it through the year 1975, and see how quickly the time span shortens down between the advancement of development. For instance, it took the railroad from the time the first steam locomotive was built till it reached its peak efficiency over 100 years.
Oh, yeah. You mean the rate of progress?
Yes,
mind-boggling. Oh, yeah, I know.
The airplane did it in 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to believe that, there are plenty of people alive who were around before there was any such thing as an aeroplane, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you've got to remember that that half of the population of the United States has been born since the first atomic bomb was exploded over Hiroshima.
Oh, sure. There are people who weren't even alive when the Beatles were at their peak.
That's right.
Yeah.
But no, imagine over half of the population of a country, over 100 million odd people.
Yeah. It's pretty...
So, this thing about people saying, well, you're not going to do this or you're not going to do that. I remember one of the professors I loved the most was a teacher that was a true teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Said this, don't ever predict that you can't do so-and-so because some damn fool that doesn't know better will go out and invent it. And this is what the public has to keep in mind.
Only in one area that I can think of right offhand has progress been lamentably slow, and that seems to be in the internal combustion engine or automobile transportation.
It's not been slow. The mere fact is that you're dealing with economics and not with technology.
There you go. There are other pressures brought to bear.
Now Hamlet said that's the rub.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you for your call.
All right.
Bye. The Skylab that was about to fall through the atmosphere and maybe onto our heads, but now they fixed it up. That's something to do with space, except I understand they just reoriented its attitude so it won't experience so much friction, so it'll stay up there a little longer. So now we're looking toward, I think, 1989, and then it's coming falling down on our heads. 742-5700 in Dallas is the number. 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. We're having an open line. Call and talk about whatever you want to. We'll be back in a minute.
This is Robert Redford. The peregrine falcon is an incredible bird. It dives on its flying prey at up to 200 miles an hour. 30 years ago, there were 1,200 pairs of peregrines breeding in our lower 48 states. Today, there are barely 100. Wildlife needs you. To find out what you can do, write to the National Wildlife Federation, Washington, D.C., 20036. That's the National Wildlife Federation, Washington, D.C., 20036.
13 minutes after 10 o'clock, plus 86 outside. Let's go back to the phones. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Well, recently I've heard you commenting on
Korean self-ordained Reverend Sun Myung Moon.
Sun Myung.
And I remembered that there was an article in the April 77 Reader's Digest.
Yes.
So I thought I'd just comment on
Okay.
Moonies.
Okay.
And, you know, they really brainwash people. You know, they cause people to totally lose their self-control, their will.
Yeah, well, that's what any religion does, doesn't it?
Lose their will.
Well, they sacrifice themselves. They give themselves up to something higher. If not their will, at least their autonomy or their self-control, maybe. What?
Yeah. Well.
Their power to direct their own lives.
Well, you know, they actually program them. They literally brainwash them. Like every minute of their waking hours.
Yes.
They're programmed, and they only give them about 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then they give them hardly anything to eat, and they just, you know, they're just literally worn down.
Yeah. Well, other articles that have been printed since that time maintain that there is no evidence of, quote, brainwashing, unquote. It depends on how you define the term. You don't think you've been brainwashed yourself?
No.
Well, say no. I don't mean to be facetious or make fun, but everybody, you might say, has been brainwashed to an extent. We're a product of our environment. You know, we all have free will to an extent too. Maybe. I might even argue against that.
Well, what I'm actually saying is that they wear them down until their mind is brought to just a complete mind control, and they fall in sort of a auto-hypnotic-like trance.
Yeah. You ever heard of charismatic Christianity?
No.
Well, it sounds similar to that. Yeah. Okay. Then what happens?
Well, see, what they look for. They don't see the hardcore Moonies.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really look for blacks or Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're considered too streetwise. And see, they seek out well-educated, religiously oriented white middle-class youngsters who appear to have relatively well-heeled parents.
Well, what kind of a parents?
Well-heeled, wealthy.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, because, I mean, they really need to be financed.
Yeah.
You know, and hardcores, they just never give the Gnostics a chance to talk or ask questions. They just continuously program them, you know.
Yeah, have you ever run into a Moonie yourself?
Yeah, once we were driving back from a mall and they were handing out pamphlets.
Yeah, did they seem brainwashed to you? Were they zombies?
No, I mean, we didn't really want to stay there. We, you know, just took off.
Okay, thank you for your call.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
742-5700 in Dallas is the number, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. Hello.
Yeah?
You're on the air.
Okay, I was thinking about the post office.
What were you thinking about it?
Well, just about a month from now, on July 20th, their contract with 600,000 postal workers expires. And the president and the administration has put a cap on all federal pay increases to not exceed 5.5% annually.
Mm-hmm.
But the very strong postal union wants, they say, nothing less than what the coal miners got in their settlement, which was about 12%. The administration has already said they will use troops if necessary. This has never worked before. And the pay
Use
of the
troops to carry the mail?
Yeah.
Oh.
The pay of the postal workers has gone up almost 100% in the last 7 years. They have an exceptionally strong union. They've struck once and threatened to strike again, and both times got retroactive pay, and nobody got any penalties, although that was illegal to strike.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very interesting to see what's going to happen, because this is a very sure crisis coming up, and I wonder if any of your listeners have any comments on this very vital subject.
Oh, that's a good topic to bring up. I appreciate your contributing.
Something that we all ought to be thinking about.
Yeah, especially since
about a month from now, and it's facing this, and it's going to be a real head-on clash, because these people won't back up, and the administration, I can't see how they can give in to these people, because if everybody else is limited, how can they give these people who are already far above the average scale of civil service workers, how can they give them more than that?
Good point.
We'll see.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Bye. 742-5700 in Dallas is the number, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. I'm Tim Jernigan, and we're carrying on an open line program with any subject, fair game. Let's go to a long-distance call here, I think. Where are you calling from?
Waco.
Oh, from down in Waco.
Yes, sir. About 100 miles from you.
I've been there.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Hot down here today.
Yeah, well, is it? It's hot up here, too.
Was it?
Yeah.
I had to drive a truck and didn't have any air conditioning today and got pretty sweaty.
Gee, well, I had to unload some great big old racks today.
Did you?
Yep.
Was it hot up in Dallas today?
It was terribly hot.
Yeah, it was terribly hot here. I think today was the hottest day we've had down here. I don't know how hot it got because I didn't hear the weather report.
It's been past 100 here one day already.
Yeah.
But it felt as hot as I've ever felt it.
Yeah, it felt hotter today to me than it felt all spring, all summer.
What's on your mind besides the temperature?
Well, I just wanted to get on, the air and talk to that DJ and tell him about my past, and how church got me straightened out. Maybe I can help somebody. See, a lot of these people that call y'all, they don't know, they don't really know how it is. They just heard they've read in the paper and heard these other people talking about church, but I'm in the church, and...
And what church?
Well, I'm a member of a big Methodist church here in Waco.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't go there. I go to a little Baptist church. Not very many people.
Oh, and you've been born again?
Well, I don't know if I've been born again or not, but I found happiness, in the Bible and in church.
Well, somebody a minute ago claimed they'd found happiness in atheism, in a conversion away from religion.
Well, what makes me happy is when I can be with these other people, in the church singing songs, and we all love the preacher. He's only 2 years older than me. I'm 25 and he's 27, the preacher is.
Yeah.
But I'm real happy, that I've found somebody that I can be with,
That's good.
Somebody that believes in me and I can believe in them,
Yeah.
My friends that I go to church with, but the church doesn't matter, it's just really in the people,
Well, that's good, sure. There's a lot to be said for the social aspect of it, I think. Any place you can go and depend on finding friends? It's like a club.
Are you taping this?
No, I don't think so.
Well, see, I haven't told you the most important thing I got to say.
Tell me.
You want me to tell you?
Tell me. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm down here in Waco, and I'm 25 years old, but when I was 17, I got into the drug scene,
Mm-hmm.
And that was back in 1969, and
bad to be into back in those days.
Yeah, and I got sick, and I've been in mental hospitals 15 times. But I went to prison once, and I went to that maximum security prison at Rust twice.
Yes?
But I didn't know what it was going to take to straighten me out, but I'm glad I've been there now, because now I go to church,
Yes?
And I was in jail 30 or 40 times back then, but I'm in church now, and I read the Bible. I read just a little bit, or I listen to just a little bit of preaching every day if I can.
Yeah.
If I got time to.
Yeah.
It really helps me, being in church with these people that love me, and I found out, that I'm not an animal. I found out I'm a human being, and I don't get in trouble anymore, and I'm working now, 2 jobs.
Congratulations. Do you feel like you could end up, back where you were before?
Well, I could, but I'm trying hard not to.
Yeah. Well,
No, it's not really that hard once you get your freedom and get out here, and then you just want to do right. It really comes easy, Once you just want to do right, that's the key to it.
I guess it depends on...
I had a conviction, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
And then that straightened me up. I had to get my conscience clear. Once I got my conscience cleared up, I feel like I got forgiveness from the Lord, I could just...
Oh, you mean being in jail actually did you some good in that respect because it was like...
Well, they had to do something with me because I was like a wild animal back then,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you saw the light. Thank you for calling.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye. 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905, the Fort Worth Metro line. Not the light with a capital T, but the light anyway. We have open lines, and I'll be back in just a minute.
Hello, you on the radio.
doing this together. We're Dallas Fort Worth people.
I think Tuesday's Child is full of grace, and that has nothing to do with anything. But on the Tuesday Kevin McCarthy Show, my guests will include nutritionist Janet Mahalko, and also we'll be playing What's My Line with a lady with a very unique occupation Tuesday morning.
57 WFAA.
Speaking of books by crooks, which we were earlier today, right, with the Susan Atkins book, Richard Nixon's selling now. Do you realize that? That book is now on the bestseller list. Last time I read anything about it, it was nobody was buying it because it cost $19.95. But now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5 on the nonfiction bestseller list. Evidently, people are buying it, maybe because of all the publicity, all the people who said they'd never buy it. Backfired. They're going to come out with a paperback version, $8.95. $8.95. At least Susan Atkins is not making any money off her book. She maintains that it's all going back into this religious organization thing. But I imagine Mr. Nixon's going to do okay on his realize a little bit of profit. 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities. Has anybody bought the book, I wonder, in our listening audience? I hear it's not even put together that well. The physical properties of the book, it's poor paper, the cover's not that great. And as far as ever getting through all the 1,000-some-odd pages of it, I would think that'd be a chore, too. Hello?
Yes.
What's on your mind?
Well, Richard Nixon book.
Oh.
Yes, I finished reading it.
Uh-huh. You finished reading it?
Yes.
All the way through?
Yes, sir.
You didn't skip over some parts.
No, sir, read, because I loved every bit of it.
How many pages?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
900 or 1,000?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the book is large.
Okay, tell me about it. You finished reading it.
Well, I think it shows just what he really is. I like the book very, very much. I wish everyone could read it and just forget about all these wild tales. And
do you think that an individual can ever tell you, no matter how honest he's trying to be, how he really is? Isn't that impossible?
He didn't say I was this way. The things that he depicted in his life from the time he was a young boy in his home, I don't think anyone that could go through and have the home that he came from could be as bad as all these, the Washington Post and those Eastern papers. They fought him along with the communists, and I think the man was the best president we've ever had, and I just wished he was in again.
Okay, on the basis of his book?
No, because I don't swallow everything that these commentators and people is fighting. It's just like a book that I read of the ordeal of Otto Okepka.
Oh, okay. Well, let's don't get into that, but I appreciate you.
I just wanted to compare the two.
Okay.
He was another one.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I don't want to know about Otto too much necessarily because we are running out of time. But
and this book that I bought was $14.95. You can get it at Kmart. A beautiful hard book.
Good. Okay. Well, that's good. Anybody want to know where to get a cheap Nixon book? That's the place. Hello.
Hello. I disagree with that lady. I wouldn't give 2 cents for a 1995 book.
Not
all of that, but that's not what I called for.
Okay.
I wanted to comment and see if what the listeners thought about the David Berkovich, son of Sam.
Oh.
What about the sentence they gave him? That is a laugh.
Well, they gave him life in prison.
No, they didn't.
Several times over. No, with
they gave him 25 years.
To life. They gave him life in prison. Several times over, several convictions on top of one another. The minimum parole time is 25 years. I mean,
and then they'll go back after he gets out and all, but I'll bet you he'll never serve 25 years.
He has to serve 25 years. There's no way he could get out serving less than 25 years.
And then through the courts, they'll never try him for another crime.
You think they'll let him out? You really think they'll let him out?
I really think so.
When have they ever let a mass murderer out of prison?
Oh, come on.
They've never let a mass murderer out of prison.
Come on, name me somebody.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
Yeah,
I tell you
we're
what.
kind of baiting each other here. But
Well, no. I want somebody to tell me.
I really
Speck,
don't know
he's still
if
in
they
jail.
ever let a mass murderer out of prison, but I think the sentence...
Richard Speck's still in jail. He doesn't have a chance of getting out. Not a chance.
He shouldn't.
Ever.
He shouldn't. He's a mad dog. But I just couldn't...
I don't think that,
When
yeah.
I read in the paper today...
Hey, we're running out of time. Thank you for your call, okay? Bye-bye. 742-5700 if you want to call in and hang on through news. 263-4905 if you're in Fort Worth or the Mid-Cities. I'm Tim Jernigan, and we'll be back with more conversation after the news.
What goals do people who start independent Amway distributorships have? Extra money, of course, and the opportunity to live a better life. But many, like Larry and Jan Culkins, have higher goals as well. We adopted 2 little girls, says Larry. We would have liked to have adopted 20. But since that was impossible, the Culkins decided that through a charitable organization, they would help support needy children overseas. Right now, say the Culkins, we support 5 kids, and our goal is to get our income up so we can write a check every month for 100 of them and really make a dent in the problems of a lot of underprivileged kids around the world. Maybe you have a goal, too, and maybe it can be reached by joining the thousands of Amway distributors who are building independent businesses right now. All across America, they serve you with fine home care, personal care, and food supplement products. And they can tell you how you, too, can become an Amway distributor, starting part-time with no previous experience, for as little as the cost of an average pair of shoes. It's easy to find out. Talk to an Amway distributor and get the whole story.
News Talk 57, home of the beautiful Harvey Martin Show. Weekdays during the Cowboy season, exclusively on WFAA, Dallas, Fort Worth.
3 maximum security prisoners, including 2 convicted murderers, are still at large tonight after an early morning escape from an Omaha, Nebraska jail. With details, reporter Dan Dillon with mutual affiliate KYNN in Omaha.
The Federal Aviation Administration has issued a nationwide alert, and the Justice Department has ordered the FBI into the case of 3 Nebraska convicts who escaped from the Douglas County Jail. The men freed themselves from a maximum security unit and stole a private plane. Officials say that 2 of the men were convicted of a gangland-style slaying that occurred outside the Omaha city limits last year. Dan Dillon, Omaha.
At least 13 canoeists drowned today when their canoes capsized during a sudden storm on a lake in northern Quebec, Canada. 12 of them were students. The victims were all from a school in the Toronto area and were on a canoe expedition when the storm hit. 18 other people survived, 1 person still missing. President Carter will hold a news conference at 3 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday afternoon. This is news from Mutual Radio. I'm Ivan Scott.
Just when you're looking for a great way to say, thanks, Dad, Sears appears with 2 fine Father's Day gift ideas. Save 20 to 25% on a colorful selection of short-sleeve sports shirts. They're now just $3.99 and $4.49 each. Or save $5 on Sears Best Double Knit Slacks. Regular cuts now $11.99 a pair. They're special buys for a special man. And on sale through June 17th in most Sears men's stores. Prices and dates may vary in Alaska and Hawaii.
I'm chewing gum again. It's wonderful. For years I couldn't because gum stuck to my dental work. But now there's Freedent gum. It doesn't stick. So I can enjoy all the pleasures of chewing gum again. The delicious flavor, fresh, clean breath, and refreshing taste. All that's possible again with Freedent gum from Wrigley's. Comes in peppermint and spearmint. You'll love it.
Feel free to chew Freedent.
It won't stick to most dental work.
Freedent gum.
At 10:32, this is Don Norman, First News 57. Thunderstorms erupted tonight in parts of north central and west Texas. Earlier this evening, a tornado was spotted in Hunt County, but there were no reports of injuries or property damage. Otherwise, the state is under fair skies and warm temperatures. The forecast calls for partly cloudy skies in South Texas tomorrow and fair in the remainder of the state through tomorrow. There is a chance of more widely scattered thunderstorms in some portions of north central and northeast Texas tonight. The Dallas mayor wants to resubmit a few of the defeated bond package proposals. Details in this report from WFAA's Jan Brigham.
Dallas Mayor Robert Folsom says a second bond election could revive some projects that were defeated simply because they were grouped with something else. And he says it's particularly important for the arts proposal to be resubmitted, since so much money has already been raised for the arts from the private sector.
There's such large sums of money to raise by the private sector, and they had a momentum going. If we could take that momentum and not let it slow down, but have a chance again. If we put the arts program out, maybe the council should consider separating these issues. Maybe there was one issue in the arts program that the voters didn't want.
Folsom says he would not like to put the Town Lake or Trinity River levee extension proposals back on the ballot the second go-round, since they were soundly defeated by the voters. Jan Brigham, First News 57.
Fort Worth Police Chief A.J. Brown wants to see his officers get an increase in pay. Many officers are quitting to go to the federal service because salaries are less in Fort Worth. Deputy Police Chief H.F. Hopkins says one of his former narcotics officers, Jim Brown, is now with the Treasury Department.
Jim had been here 9 or 10 years, and Jim can leave the department and go to work for alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And in 5 years, he'll be making as much as a deputy chief makes here at, say, 30 years. He also, he was here, I think, 9.5 years. He can retire 4 years earlier in ATF than he could have retired if he'd have stayed here at a better retirement rate.
Police recruiters in Fort Worth are having a hard time signing up minorities because other cities offer police trainees a higher starting salary. In baseball, the Texas Rangers nipped Kansas City tonight 6-5. Dallas-Fort Worth weather clearing and cooler tonight with a low